Alright, welcome back to The Horror with Nate and Mike. Nate is not here right now. We had to record separately this week due to work overflow, basically. But we aren't going to let that stop us from making our final killer theories. Yes, this is our final guesses. And comment below your final guesses. I assume that they're going to reveal the killer at least the end of episode 9, at least one of the killers. So, we need to get this out of the way now, so there's not a whole bunch of, that's what I thought it was, I just never said anything out loud about it. Not that you guys would do that, of course. I have actually already listened to Nate's recording, so I'll go ahead and start this video off with his thoughts, who he thinks will be the final killers for Season 1 of Scream. And I will be back with my thoughts on his thoughts and my final killer theories right afterwards.
So for this final edition of Killer Theories for Scream Season 1, I've completely eliminated Branson from the suspect pool. And as I see it, there are 3 major suspects to play the role of killer. First, we've got Jake, and honestly, the main thing that makes Jake look guilty is that he got stabbed in the chest. Just like it happened in Scream 1, this show has borrowed certain things from the Scream movies without remaking it, and this might be one of them. So that makes him a possible. Piper, I think, she almost seems like a lock, especially after we found out about the whole Brandon James kid, Emma's half-brother or sister deal, who would be, about a year or 2 older than Emma, which would make her right around Piper's age. Piper said that she had a father that died and, it made her ask questions. So that all totally fits. And like I said, it almost feels like she's a lock. If for no other reason that A, she doesn't look guilty, and B, she hasn't really had anything to do all season. So why is she there? This is a big thing I wanted to talk about in terms of how to guess who the killer is. Sometimes, if shit is weak, then your biggest clue is going to be who looks the least guilty. Because sometimes all the movie or show wants to do is surprise you. And if they want to surprise you, then it's going to be the least likely person. It'll be the person you least suspect. The person you least suspect this time around, I guess that doesn't really fit to Piper, because why else is she even there? But they haven't gone out of her way to make her look guilty or anything. Also, she was right there on the scene when Will was stabbed and dragged away. So she can't be the killer, but she could possibly be one of the killers. She could be Brandon James's kid. Although, what if Brandon James's kid only came back to town to clear the name of their father? What if Brandon James's kid didn't come back for a murder spree? Wouldn't that be an interesting twist? So maybe we'll see that, but it really seems like a lock, like Piper is Brandon James' kid, so that makes her another strong contender. And then my third major suspect would be Audrey, because she's a main character, and what's going to be more surprising than having one of your 3 main characters be revealed to be evil? What her motivation could possibly be, I don't know. They have given us enough evidence along the way, enough reasons to look at her, but at the same time, they've pretty much kept her name clean. Like, you're not supposed to suspect her, so that makes me suspect her all the more. My previous killer theories, I've been dead set that the sheriff is in on this. The sheriff is one of the bad guys. And you know what? I stick to that. I think the sheriff is a bad guy. I think the sheriff is a killer. I don't know that he's killing people now. I don't think he's in on the Ghostface act that's going on now. But he might have killed people back in the day. In any event, after hearing that MTV picked up the show for a second season, I don't think we're going to get resolution by the end of the season. Because it's Scream, the assumption is, and logistically it kind of has to be, that there are multiple killers. I don't know that we're going to get all the killers revealed to us by the end of this season. They may throw us a bone and give us one, or maybe not even that. Who knows? Let's just play the odds. My final choices for the end of this season, I'm going to pick Audrey and Piper. Although, that's just going with gut instinct. They're going to have to come up with a heck of an explanation to explain that, because honestly, what I just laid out to you, like, whoever it is, but I think it's Piper, but Brandon James's kid coming back to town to clear their father's name. That seems A, more logical, and B, more interesting than, oh, Brandon James is my father's, and so I came back to town to, like, kill a bunch of people. Doesn't really make any sense, but I'm not really expecting this finale to make much sense. That's it. Those are my picks. Back to you, Mike.
All right. Good stuff. Let's see then. That makes Nate's final killer theories Piper and Audrey. 2 women killers, like I said, I can't hate on that. I think that that's a really cool idea. I would like to see that. I would like to see both Nate be right, unless it proves me wrong. I'd like to see Nate be right, and I would really like to see 2 girls be the killer. However, I do not agree with that. But I will get to that in a second. I'm just going to talk about chime in a bit on some of the stuff that Nate said. One, that Jake is a possible suspect. Respectfully, I disagree on that one. And it really just comes down to the idea that, and I mentioned this in my episode 8 review, that I think Jake surviving that because he's involved or a killer, it's too much of a cheat. I'm going to give the writers a little bit more credit than that. I mean, Brooke literally says it was a miracle that it missed his major arteries. Even if, like, Jake stabbed himself, there is, like, no way that anyone could know how to, like, miss all the major arteries. And it's like, what did somebody say? It's like, oh, I'm going to stab you, or then if I can't get to you in time, you stab yourself, and we'll just, fingers crossed, hope for a miracle. But yeah, go ahead and stab yourself in the heart, and we'll see what happens. I just really don't think so. No, I mean, you could say that the killer was somebody else who knows how to miss all major arteries and all of it. But that would basically only point to Maggie, and she was all the way across town, so I don't really think that holds up either. But I could see how he looks guilty. Speaking of guilty, is he points out something very spot on about how to catch killer slasher logic, is look for who looks the least guilty, because sometimes all they want to do is surprise you. That is very true. And you'll see that in a lot of murder mysteries or things you didn't even know were mysteries. I'm kind of looking at you there, Sleepy Hollow Season 1. As much as I kind of think that ending was bullshit, not to get too much into Sleepy Hollow, the visceral impact, let me say, satisfying enough that I'm like, fuck it, whatever. It was cool. And I like that actor. I'm not going to give that away, though. Watch Sleepy Hollow Season 1, surprisingly, pretty damn good. So, talking about who looks the least guilty on this show, he didn't quite point to Piper, but I don't think he mentioned who he thinks would be the least guilty. I would have to say that Maggie would be the most surprising one. I mean, I guess you could say that Emma kind of is, but we've even seen the Emma character, the supposed final girl, end up being killers. I'm not going to tell you which movie or movies that has happened in, but now the mom, that seems really far-fetched. But I do think, watching the show, she doesn't have enough that I would make that my theory. Spoiler alert, she's not one of my theories. But, I mean, she has a hell of a motive if you think about it. I mean, the cops killed, and basically the entire town bullied and killed somebody that she's been friends with since she was a little kid. And she said that she believes that he was innocent. That is a hell of a motive, too, especially that he's the father of your child. Unborn, you kept it, you didn't, regardless of all that. That's a hell of a motive to kill motherfuckers on the anniversary. Plus the fact that it's not killing in 2014 Halloween, which would be the 20-year reunion. She's killing on, or somebody is killing on the 21st anniversary. So that's a little bit strange. But anyway, we'll get to some of that stuff in the timeline later. But it would be really cool if Maggie was the killer. That's another one I wouldn't be upset if she was. Nate brought up an idea that I think is really cool, and I'd really like to see it, but I really don't think it's going to happen. That Brandon James kid, who we both have very strong theories, that Brandon James kid, doesn't have to be evil. Brandon James kid, when revealed, doesn't have to end up being the killer, but more than likely will be. I don't really like that motive for that's why the killings are happening, even though I do believe that is the reason. It's Scream 3 logic that an adopted kid would be mad at the life that was supposedly awesome life that was taken away from them and given to the other kid, and abandonment issues. The reason I'm not too happy if that's where it goes, which I think it will, is one, we've seen it in Scream 3, which makes me think that the people didn't even watch Scream 3, if that's what it is. It might not be what it is. But also just that motive in itself is flimsy. I don't know. I just think it's not like a universally identifiable motive. And that kind of takes the quote-unquote fun out of it. Like, usually it's, I think, more fun when you can identify with the killer's motive and be like, oh, I could see killing a motherfucker for that. So it doesn't really have that, so hopefully not. So I'm kind of rambling a lot here, but basically the thing is as I went to go over my killer theories, I kind of got away from myself, as I tend to do on my review for episode 8. So instead of using this time to tell you what my killer theories are, I would suggest just going back and listening to the review I did of episode 8, because I really ended up covering a lot of surprises that I think are going to happen in the next 2 episodes, surprises of what happened in this last episode, episode 8, and I cover basically everything that would connect the two. But stick around on this one real quick, because I have a few things that I want to go over. I want to tell you what my killer theories are here, since that's what this video is all about. So, my final killer theories, Mike's final killer theories here on the Horror for Scream Season 1 is my good old standby, Mr. Branson, and Piper. Yep. Now, there are, like I said, a lot of interesting reasons I feel this way, that they would be our killer duo. I've already recorded those for you, like I said, and they're waiting on my episode 8 review. Little heads up, it starts at 13 minutes and 50 seconds if you want to just skip all the other stuff in that review. However, there is some pretty cool little bits of trivia about the show in that episode that, if you're into that thing, maybe it's worth sitting through the whole 3-hour long review that I did. But, no, I'm just joking. It's only like 22 minutes, but, I mean, that's fucking half the length of the whole show, but whatever. Who's counting? Okay, so that leaves us at the end of the day with Nate's picks being Piper and Audrey, and mine, Mike's, being Piper and Branson Palmer, as I'm going to start calling him. I guess we're basically just big Piper haters here, but really it just comes down to that she really is the only character that fits adequately into the timeline to be Maggie and Brandon's kid, and more than likely that is the defining reason for why the killer is killing. There is somebody else, like I said, I get into this a bit more. The girl that Mr. Branson, when he was a teacher at the college back in 2013, she was 18 years old when he killed her. I did little air quotes, but we'll see. She was 18, that would make her 20 nowadays, which would fit into the timeline. So this Olivia, what the fuck is her name? Olivia Finley, I think is what it is. Olivia Finley is the only other character in the entire series so far that fits into that timeline, which makes me think, and I go into this further, that they wouldn't have killed Maggie and Brandon's daughter and Emma's, half-sister off screen. That's pretty doubtful. So it's my theory that Piper stole her identity, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that works into that. Like I said, check out episode 8 review for that. But one last thing before we go here. Something I've been meaning to mention since episode 2. I don't really think it's anything, but maybe it'll come up in other seasons. Just wanted to get this out there. They mentioned twice in the first 2 episodes that Tyler, the first person to get murdered, which I have my own theories about him, just because I don't trust any character who dies off screen, that he had foster parent. They point that out twice. Why point that out if that doesn't mean anything? Now, I mean, his age is confirmed at 17 at the vigil. His little stand-up thing at the vigil says he was born in 98, makes him 17, so he's not in the timeline for that. So, okay, alright, that is our final killer theories here on The Horror. We'll be back next week with review, recap, and analysis of the penultimate episode of MTV Scream. 9 out of 10. We're almost to the end there, guys, and I bet you they reveal the killer by the end of episode 9, so get your comments in and voice who you think are the killers. Please don't go over 3. Try and keep it to 2. Let's be reasonable here. Alright, awesome. Talk to you guys soon.